What's going on, family? What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back. It's Tuesday. Tuesday, doing life on a Tuesday. Um, Man, it's been a great weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. I did. Um, yeah, just just doing that life, just doing that life. Man, a lot to cover today. Thank you those for joining. Thank you those for watching the replay and appreciate you rocking with me, spending time with me, and thank you for sharing, subscribing, all of that good stuff. Um, I hope that this is giving you the value that you have been looking for, and hopefully something is being said that'll add value. That is the goal. Again, my name is Marvin Richardson. Nice to meet you. I'm the founder of Becoming One. My goal is to help you um, be strengthening your relationships with the goal of becoming one in Him, with us, and for all. You can't become one with the person if you're not one with Him, and then you can't come one together if you don't have Him with you. And then for all kind of covers everything else, the family, just everything that you're connected to. I don't believe that people are together just to be together. If you're with someone just because you think they're cute, you think the booty look good, or you think he got a nice beard or whatever, then you kind of just defeating the purpose, and you're only looking at it from a visible physical level. If once you start to become more mature, you start to look at things more deeper. And if you haven't had those conversations with yourself about what you are, why you are, and how you are, when you actually do decide to connect with somebody else, then you don't quite know if you guys are compatible, suitable, if you guys are going in the same direction. Christians will say, "Are we equally yoked?" Non-Christians will say, "Look, I just don't know if you the right one for me or not." And so, in any case, you want to have those times of conversation with yourself, especially to pray to find out what's going on, and you find that in Him. So that's where the in Him part comes. And then as you join with someone, you guys can collectively work towards something as an us, not so much as an I. So it's always it should be us over I, because when this becomes I, then it's all about you. And if it's all about you, then there's no we, and then there's no mission. And if you have what two visions, that's what division. So I'm already flowing. So just let's just recognize that we do need God. We do need God. So if you didn't watch the first one, I recommend you go check it out. Relationship Leagues. I'm just going to give a brief recap. Think it was good. Some things that I said about that is talking about different leagues. And so I broke down different types of sports leagues: MLB, NBA, NFL, WWE. There's different types of leagues. And so what I wanted to do was talk about how, relationships are kind of like being in a league, and everything that kind of comes with it. I talked about the purpose of, before you even get into the league, you got to train, right? There's locker room moments where you do recaps, and then you got to determine. I asked the question, what league are you preparing for? So are you just in a situationship type of a league? Are you in a boyfriend girlfriend kind of league? Are you in a, I want to build something with someone to have something with them for the rest of my life kind of league, meaning marriage? What kind of league are you preparing for? If you don't prepare for something, then you're not preparing for anything. And not making a decision is making a decision. So another thing I talked about is, what is the goal? And so for those of us that believe, the goal is to get from I do to well done. And so unfortunately, a lot of marriages don't make it, but there's a lot of marriages that do. And so at the end of your life, when you stand before God, you want there to be a well done in every sense of the word. But since this is about relationships, I want God to be able to say, well done about you and your relationships. I mean, wouldn't you? Do you want to have a string of failed relationships as a result of the things that you've done, or some of the things that you've experienced? So I do to well done should be the goal, and also leaving a legacy. Um, and then I talk towards the end that, things happen, but stay on the field. You want to play in such a way that you leave everything what on the field, that you're empty. So when it comes to your relationship, your husband, your wife, the person that you're dealing with, that you're dating, whatever, you want to bring your best. Unless in before marriage, unless there's a reason for you to no longer continue with them, you want to bring your best. I mean, why give somebody, the watered down version of yourself? So now some things need to be reserved for later on. But once you in there, when you're in that relationship, do it, do the best that you can. Give it your all. so that you can say, you know, I've done all that I can do, and I love this person until death do us part, not till unhappy do I leave. And you will know that when he says, well done, my good and faithful servant, in the area of relationship and marriage, you know you handled it. All right. So I titled this From the Court to the Altar. All right. And so thinking about courts, altars, relationship, and kind of what that means. And so, what about relationships and the process that happens before marriage kind of aligns itself or be similar to what a court is? So, you think about it, Christians, they'll use the term courting. That's basically, you know, we're really serious about being with each other. So we're courting. Some people don't even use that term. It's kind of antiquated, depending on the denomination that you're in. Some other denominations, they're using that now. It's like we're courting. Basically means y'all serious. It's almost like the step before the person proposes and y'all about to get married. But if you think about the court in the sports sense, you know, it's kind of like dating. And so when you're in a team and you go out to play, whether it's the basketball court, the football field, it's a court, it's a square box. And the purpose of that is for you to perform in sports. The goal is to win the what? Game, right? So you're out there, you're trying to win a game, you have an opponent, and he's your opposing opponent, and you're basically trying to score games. If it's football, you're trying to get a touchdown. If it's basketball, you want to get as many shots in the basket so that by the time you get to the end of the fourth quarter, you have more points on the board. And so in the dynamics of relationships, you find yourself performing a way so that you can get points on the board so that you can basically win the game. And if win the game is winning the woman, then that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to win the woman over to say yes to you. Another thing is that, you know, not only are you both there to score points, but you're also there to test each other's agility. How do you handle when you get tired? How do you handle when the weather changes? How do you handle in different temperature atmospheres? Football players, they play in the heat and they play in the cold. And sometimes they just got to muscle it up. And so when you're in a relationship, it's a similar thing. Sometimes the relationship seems real cold and sometimes it can get real hot, especially in marriage. If it gets hot, then that's good. But sometimes the wrong kind of heat is not the kind of heat that's helpful for your marriage. It's actually hurtful. So you want to manage that. You're testing your agility. How do you handle kind of the remarks that may be a little snappy, and how do you handle the remarks that may be not the best way that you would have liked to have heard it? Sometimes communication is a breakdown. So while you're in the court of relationships, you are learning how this person plays. You are learning how this person shows up to the game. You are learning how this person started in the beginning of the season and where they are in the middle of the season, and then where they go and how they're doing at the ending of the season. So you're basically paying attention to their stats. This is why when you're getting to know someone, you want to give yourself time to get to know them over seasons of time so that you can see, you know what, the beginning of the season, you was going hard. You was like, boom, boom, boom. You was hitting it. Now in the middle of the season, you seem like you're gassing out. And so ladies will say that, you know, he's kind of backpedaling or she's kind of pulling away. I feel like I'm being ghosted because now you've seen a person operate from the beginning of the season to the middle of the season. And if there's not an upward mobility, upward movement of their increasing their abilities and their staying on target on their disciplines, you'll start to see their performance fail. And so when a person is like, you know, I'm kind of busy, sorry, I'm not as available, they kind of duck in, then you're just like, wait a minute. When you was first pursuing me, you was all in my face. Now I barely get a text in the morning. Now you don't even call. We ain't seen each other in 2 weeks. And you just like, well, I'm just really busy. Anyway. So you need to test each other's ability. And so, but also what's going on in the court is there's an atmosphere that's there. It's not just you and your opponent. You have people in the audience, you have a referee, you have cheerleaders, you got haters, you got fanatics. You know how people go to games, they put on this favorite jersey, they'll paint their face depending on which sport it is. If WWE, they're there with different, they're with their own belts. They're there with the fingers. They got signs saying different things. And so people come to view whatever the sport is. They want to see how it is. And so the same thing with you and the person that you're getting to know, the person that you're married to, there is an audience. You are within view of many people. And you have to recognize that that you're in view of many people. And not only that, so some games they have this big screen that goes around, and then sometimes they'll actually highlight a couple and they'll play music during the timeout, and then they basically either want them to kiss or they want them to dance. And it's just like it's a hilarious thing. People love it. Well, that's how it is with you in your relationship. When you post your Facebook posts, when you post your IG posts, whatever you're posting relating to that relationship, that's basically you in the stadium on the screen, and everybody's getting to see it. So you have to determine, how am I performing? How am I performing before the people? How am I performing behind closed doors? And more importantly, how am I performing with God? And so during this season, there's markers of time in a particular game, whether it's basketball, football, there's either quarters or there's periods. There's different, for boxing is different rings, round one, round two. During the time of that relationship, there are markers in time, and there are things that happen. You have moments with your significant other or the person that you're getting to know, and you are marking time. You're recognizing, this happened. Some events are great. Some events are not so great. Some events are just like, okay, it's kind of blah, blah. But in any case, you are experiencing this person, and now you're having a record of history of how they're performing. So if you're dating a female, you're just seeing how she responds to you from the beginning and how she responds to you now. Same thing with the ladies. You're seeing how he's taking care of you, and how he's also taking care of the people that he knows. And whether there is a progression of his heart or her heart, or there's a regression where there's kind of a pullback. And that's to be expected in a relationship, because sometimes people get triggered, things happen, people get busy, and you want to be able to see all of that. This is the League of the Relationships Part 2. Thank you for joining. My name is Marvin Richardson of Becoming One, where I'm here to help you heal better, live better, love better, with the goal and the purpose of becoming one in Him, with us, and for all. And so we have different markers in time during a court season, where there's preseason, regular season, championships, and then you go from playing just to get warmed up to playing to actually win. The goal is to win, right? The goal is to win. And so once you go from just kind of checking this person out and you're just getting to know them, you had a couple of dates, and now you're like, okay, I think we can go more so from it's a me situation to a we situation. And in a we situation, now you've either given the relationship a label. You've either said, we go together, we're dating, this is my boo, this is my bae. Now you're thinking more us as opposed to I. Whether you put a label on it or not, it's still kind of, your behavior speaks more than your confession. Now the marriage part, you make a confession and you're supposed to follow with what you confessed. It can't be, well, I don't feel this anymore. You're supposed to base your actions on what you confess. When you're before the marriage, you're getting to the point where you go from doing the action before you make a confession to do something more. And that's where the altar part comes in. Let's keep going. So you go from me to we, right? You go from here to there. First you was on opposite sides. Now you're on the same side. And while you're playing this game together, you're on the same team. You have to have a level of grit. You have to know how you're going to conduct yourself with this person. You're getting to know each other. You have to learn how to bob and weave. It's almost like being on the three-legged race. There's a coordination that needs to happen. And then you have to, like I said in the previous live, you have to have locker room moments. You have to play the tape. You got to see, wait a minute, how did this conversation go? Well, how did you feel in this conversation? What was your experience of me when we had this conversation? And you can slow things down and really see, okay, well, what's really going on here? What is the trigger point that's happening that's causing me to perform in this court experience, this game called relationship that we're in, before we can get to this thing called the altar? So you're trying to qualify and quantify whether this person is worth you spending the rest of your life with. And so therefore you have to figure out how we're performing together. How do we function together as a unit? Even though there has not been a vow made, you're still kind of seeing where this thing is going and how do both of you perform together. And, sometimes at the end of a season, you feel like, you know what? I need to change teams, or I just need to be a free agent. And sometimes those things happen, but the whole goal was, again, you're going from the court to the altar. So I wrote in here, how the two of you function will determine how you will handle each season. And in marriage, best believe you're going to have great seasons. You're going to have hard seasons. You're going to have seasons where things don't make sense. And then you're going to have seasons where everything is just on and popping. The sex is good. The communication is good. Babies are coming. You're loving the baby. Everything is just going great. And then a moment comes where you have challenges. And that's just what life is. Life is going to be life-in, for real. Life is always going to be life-in. But how the two of you decide to go about life and how you're going to perform will determine the level of success. Because again, the goal is to get from I do to well done. So courts and gates are significant, right? So when you're dating, you kind of have more gates around you. You have barriers. There's certain areas of your personality that they don't get to move beyond until you decide to open the gate and say, okay, you have now been elevated to this area of the house. And so when you're married, there shouldn't be any gates or walls. It's supposed to be free enough for you to be coexisting with that person in every room. You don't ever want to be in a marriage where you feel like certain rooms are closed off, like the money room is closed off. You can only go in the money room when the spouse says so. You can only go into the intimacy room when the spouse says so. You can't have a marriage like that. And if you are in a relationship with someone, you want to know that on the other side of saying I do, that there's a process by which you guys can converse and you can navigate and move about that whole space. So you're literally going from a court to an altar, which is really a house. And like the song Love is a House. And within that house, you want to have all of the rooms available to you. Yeah. Okay. So scripture says a three-corded strand is not easily broken. So let's talk about altars. So let's say you do all of this stuff, you've gone through 3 seasons, 4 seasons, 5 seasons, and you're just like, man, we are a really good team. I really want to continue to do life with this person. You know what I'm saying? I want to be on this team for life. You know, you want to go ahead and get your jersey. You want to put your name on the back. Actually, for the ladies, you want to give her your name. So on the back of her jersey, it'll be her name. She get to call herself Mrs. Whatever. And you can get to say, that's my boo. She'll say, that's my bae, and all those things. And you guys are now deciding to go from just being on the court, playing this game, to saying, you know what, we're really going to do this thing. We want to be professional and transfer from the minor league to the major league. Because if the major leagues is marriage, that's where you want to be. But you've been getting to know each other to make sure that once you get on the other side of that, you guys knowing how you are navigating. You know the length of the season. You know what to expect. And you also know that you may have to pivot in the middle of the game in order to win the game. And collectively, sometimes you will win and sometimes you will lose. But the goal is, okay, we're a team. We come as a team. We leave as a team. And so getting to the altar, that's a very significant thing. At the altar, you're standing before a person. You're saying vows. Go with me in the theater of your mind. You're literally standing on earth. But it's not just something happening on earth. It's something happening in heaven. You saying a vow, but you're also registering those words in heaven. And God is like, great. These people have decided that they're going to walk together as one, and they're going to be a sign to the people on the planet that they are going to engage each other and love each other and be one, just as his relationship with us on the planet and how we are supposed to be one with him. So we are mirroring to the world his relationship that he wants and desires with us. And so, of course, the scriptures in the Bible talks about husbands love your wives and all those different things, and wives should respect their husbands. I mean, there's rules and roles to this thing, but going from the court to the altar, that's a process, and you don't want to rush that process. But at the same time, you don't want to play with that process either, because it's almost like going from algebra to calculus. If your algebra is not strong, you will struggle in calculus. I know, I'm a witness. I ain't gonna tell you how many times I took calculus. I ain't gonna tell you. And don't try to look it up in my school, and I ain't gonna mention the name. But if you don't have your algebra together, your calculus is going to be real weak. You'll be struggling. The reason why is because I'm a nerd out for a second, because there's an order of operations. If you don't understand the order of operations, PEMDAS, then you're not going to understand how to do your calculus. You're not going to understand the forms that, okay, I do this here and I do that there and I do this here. You won't know. And so in a relationship is the same thing. You have to understand what is the order of operations. If something comes against us, do we come against each other or do we come together and then come against that thing collectively? So the court part is really just the practice for the real game, the championship in marriage that the two of you will choose to walk through from the day you say I do to the day that you die. Here's a cheat code of how to navigate that. It says in Psalms, it talks about enter his gates with thanksgiving and enter his courts with praise. Interesting enough, what happens when the team comes out to play a game and they enter the court? Everybody's cheering, right? So it's interesting how we'll go to a game and as they're entering in, we will cheer the players on. So, man, woman, when you enter the court with some level of praise and thanksgiving, of course, to God. But when you're dealing with a person one-on-one, how do you engage them? How can they experience you? If you're going in with thanksgiving, appreciation, you will be successful because every time they leave your presence, they'll be like, man, every time I'm with them, I feel like I'm being made better than what I was before. I feel like I'm being affirmed. Whatever your love language is, do that. If you find out what their love language is, do that. But entering the gates or entering their gates with thanksgiving, I'm thankful that I'm here. I'm thankful that I get to know you. I'm thankful that I'm married to you. Thankful that I get to do life with you. And you know why I'm thankful that we get to life? Because you are this, you are that. You know, you're so smart. You know, there's nothing, no one will ever turn away a compliment, especially a man. If you tell a man he's the best thing since sliced bread, especially if you do it in the morning when he goes to work, he will go to work feeling like, man, I'm the man. And for those of you who've seen the TV show This Is Us, and she was like, wait a minute, close your eyes. And she's just talking to him and she was just affirming him and affirming him. What man will not feel like he is the man when he has somebody affirming him? Now, I know some of you ladies say, well, all men don't need to be affirmed. I ain't dealing with that. I'm talking about your man. You don't want anybody else to cheer your man on greater than you. You're supposed to be his biggest cheerleader, and brothers the same way. You're supposed to be their best supporter. You're supposed to be the one in the stands going, "That's right, that's my baby." Just straight embarrass her. Embarrass her when she come out with the new dress on. Scream, "Woo, girl! What is your name?" You know what? We don't need to go home. We don't need to go out. We can just stay here. I mean, you should affirm her in such a way that she blushes. She's just like, oh my God, he's so crazy. This man is crazy. And then, for those of you who married, send a little text message and say something real, what husband, be like, girl, when you get home, I'm a B, C, D, E, F, G. Just say something, you know what to say. And she'll just be like, oh, this boy's so crazy. But what that does is it reinforces, entering her mental gates with thanksgiving and you're praising her. So who can go wrong when you guys appreciate each other? Who can go wrong within the time frame of courting, dating, and before you get to the altar, the experience is that, man, this person is just so good to me. I ain't going nowhere. He ain't going nowhere. She ain't going nowhere. We gonna be here. It's gonna be us over all. It's not gonna be I. It's gonna be us over I. And when you have an us over I, whether you're dating, whether you're married, whatever, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. So for those of you who are in the minor leagues, you haven't gone to the major leagues because you're not married, just handle that. Stay on your disciplines. Make sure you keep your exercise up. Make sure you keep your communication where it needs to be. Make sure you're showing up and being the best version of yourself. And when things are not going well, let them see that too. Let them see that, you know what, you injured your leg, you're hurt, you need to take some time out to kind of recover. Put some ice on that. Put some, get a massage, whatever you have to do to make sure that you can get back out there on the field and be at your best. If you make provisions for that, then it's just a part of the ebbs and flow of how relationship and life is in relationships. So enter his gates with thanksgiving, enter his courts with praise. How you choose to engage the other person, treat the other person, affirm the other person, you create a history and a narrative in their mind that, man, this person really gets me. And brothers, when a woman feels like you get them, then you get them. If they says, man, he gets me, I'm going to give him me. And it's easy. So you can get on your knee and you can ask that question. Will you be my wife? If you give her an experience that is like none other, saying yes is easy. But she also will trust that everything that you've done with me, for me, around me, has just shown me what it would be like. Now, of course, on the other side of I do, there's different dynamics. But if you give them a history and it's more positive than negative, 9 times out of 10, they can trust that, you know what, this is worth me saying I do to. And yet have the hard conversations, have the hard season moments, have the locker room moments. But when you think about the full breadth of the season, how that season was, they're like, yeah, I'm willing to go to the altar and say those 2 words, I do. All right. So I hope that that was helpful. That was part 2. Part 3 coming next week. And drop a comment and say how this has either reached you. If there was something in here that was significant that was said, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. And I appreciate you guys for joining with me. Thank you again for rocking with me. I appreciate you. God bless you. You guys have a good night.